saltiness isn't bliss, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. And what better way to spread the love from my kitchen to yours than a new recipe you're gonna fall in love with. So tonight I am making cheeseburger soup. So we're gonna start with a medium pot here. This is a half recipe. I would have loved to make a whole recipe, but the cheese sauce that goes in this soup is chock full of salt. So unfortunately, the best part that makes the soup what it is where all the salt is hiding. At any rate, we're gonna cut down on the salt everywhere else we can. So we're gonna start with 1.5 cups of reduced sodium chicken broth. Let me just pour that in there. To that, we wanna add in 1/4 pound of ground beef that is browned and drained. To that, I've got 1 potato that is peeled, cubed, and cooked. Now you could wait to cook the potato until you make the soup. You will have to cook the soup quite a bit longer, so this will just speed up the process. All right, so we've got our broth, our beef, and our potatoes. Now we're gonna add in our spices, and we're gonna turn our burner onto just the edge of medium-high. We don't want a real crazy boil because our potatoes are cooked, so we just wanna get a real simple, gentle boil, and then we'll turn it down from there. 1/4 teaspoon of dried minced onion. 1/2 teaspoon of parsley flakes. 1/2 teaspoon of dried basil. And 1/8 teaspoon of ground pepper. So now we want to mix all that together well. And as soon as we get a gentle boil going, I will be right back. So our soup has been simmering with a gentle boil here for about 10 minutes. I am going to give that another stir. And I'm going to turn my heat down now to medium-low. Our next step is we have 3/4 cup of half and half. Half and half is a nice alternative to milk because half and half has a lot less sodium than milk. And so we're gonna do 3/4 cup. To that, we're gonna add 1.5 tablespoons of flour. I have sifted this flour to just help it to blend into the half and half better. So I'm gonna slowly add a little bit of that at a time. As I add that in there, I'm going to take a small whisk and just whisk that in there as best I can, just to help blend it before we add it to the soup, so we're not having issues in the soup with clumps and lumps and all the yucky stuff we don't want in there. So you are just going to repeat those steps until your flour is all blended in. And then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so our flour is all blended into our half and half. I am gonna pour that into the pot. And now we wanna give that a good stir. Our burner is still on medium-low, because at this point we're just gonna simmer. For just a moment, and now we are going to talk about some cheese. So there are a couple of ways you can do the next step. The original way that I was making it was just buying the big block of Velveeta cheese, cutting that into cubes, dropping the cubes into the pot, and letting those cook and melt. So I was able to find same exact cheese, but just in the sauce version. So they, either one, whether you go with the block or the sauce, they both have a lot of salt, unfortunately. So let's get started with the cheese. So what I've done with this pouch is I've cut the corner off. So now we're just gonna squeeze it in here. So Each of these pouches is 4 ounces. So because this is a half recipe, we want 8 ounces of Velveeta cheese in the soup. Squeeze that pouch in there. There's really no method to my madness. I just squeeze, I just roll from the bottom to the top, and that seems to do the trick. All right, so 1 pouch of cheese sauce is in the pot. I'm gonna squeeze the second one in there, and then we will blend and whisk that in the soup. I'm gonna use a very small mini whisk. Our potatoes are very tender in there, so if we use a large whisk, that may kind of break up the potatoes, and then you're not gonna get those nice cubes that we're going for in the pot. So I'm gonna go with the real little one here and just kind of make some small circles until I see the soup start to change color like it did right there. And that tells me that that cheese is starting to melt and blend into it. And also it's starting to look much more like cheeseburger soup. If we use the small whisk, our potatoes pretty much stay intact. And we get the cheese all blended in there. So now we're gonna simmer this for about 2 to 3 minutes on medium-low. And then we will move on to our very last step. So our final and last step to our tasty cheeseburger soup is some sour cream. So we're gonna add in with the same mini whisk we added the cheese. We're gonna do 1/8 of a cup. So just scoop all that in there. With your burner still on medium-low, take your mini whisk. If you don't have a mini whisk, a regular whisk will work, a fork, whatever you've got. Or slotted spoon, and you're just gonna make those small circles again like you did with the cheese. Just a few times around to make sure that we got it all blended. And now we will let this simmer for 1 to 2 minutes, and then our soup will be ready to scoop into a bowl. Our soup smells so good, and it's done. So let me get a scoop of the soup in the bowl. Get one more in there. There it is, guys. And as a little added treat on the side with no salt, I microwaved a hot pretzel, and I'm gonna dip that in there just to give you a little sneak peek. Thanks so much for watching. Happy Valentine's Day. Remember, spread more love, not more salt. I will see you next time.